Hello, welcome back, or if you're just joining me for the first time, welcome here. We're on the third section of There by Tommy Orange. If you've been following along since the beginning, hope you're liking it so far, or you can start from the beginning, just a few videos back. You'll find that in my videos on my channel here. I'm Julie, by the way. Anyway, we are gonna get started with a chapter from Edwin Black. So let's go back to our cast of characters at the front of the book, and I'll read for you Edwin Black. Biracial young man. His mother, Karen, is white, and his father, Harvey, who he has never known, is native. Once dreamed of becoming a writer, earned a master's degree in comparative literature with a focus on Native American literature. Loves the internet. Recently started an internship assisting with the Big Oakland Powwow. All right, so we'll read Edwin Black and I think another section after this, but Edwin, page 62. I'm on the toilet, but nothing is happening. I'm here. You have to try. You have to intend. And not only tell yourself, but really sit there believing. It's been 6 days since my last movement. One of the bullet point symptoms on WebMD was this: the sense that everything didn't come out. This feels true about my life in ways I can't articulate yet, or like the name of a short story collection I'll write one day, when it all finally does come out. The trouble with believing is you have to believe that believing will work. You have to believe in belief. I've scraped out the little bowl of faith I keep by the open window my mind has become ever since the internet got inside, made me a part of it. I'm not joking. I feel as if I'm going through withdrawal. I've read about residential internet rehab facilities in Pennsylvania. They have digital detox retreats and underground desert compounds in Arizona. My problem hasn't just been with gaming, or gambling, or incessantly scrolling down and refreshing my social media pages, or the endless search to find good new music. It's all of it. I was really into Second Life for a while. I think I logged 2 whole years there. And I was growing, getting fatter in real life. The Edwin Black I had in there on there, I made him thinner. And as I did less, he did more. The Edwin Black in there had a job and a girlfriend, and his mom had died tragically during childbirth. That Edwin Black was raised on the reservation with his dad. The Edwin Black of my second life was proud. He had hope. This Edwin Black, me here on the toilet, can't get there on the internet because yesterday I dropped my phone in the toilet. My computer froze. Same fucking day, it just stopped. Not even the mouse cursor moved. No spinning wheels of promised load. No reboot after unplug, just a sudden and mute black screen. My face reflected in it, staring first in horror at the computer dying, then at my face reacting to seeing my face react to the computer dying. A little part of me died then, seeing my face, thinking about this sick addiction. All this time I've spent doing almost nothing. 4 years of sitting, staring into my computer at the internet. I guess if you don't count sleep, it's 3 if you don't count the dreaming. But I dream of the internet, of keyword search phrases that make complete sense in the dream, or the key to the dream's meaning, but which make no sense in the morning, like all the dreams I've ever had. I once dreamed I'd become a writer, which is to say I graduated with my master's in comparative literature with a focus on Native American literature. It certainly must have looked like I was on my way toward something. With my degree in hand, in the last picture I'd posted to Facebook, the picture of me in my cap and gown, 100 pounds lighter, my mom with a too wide smile looking at me with untethered adoration when she should have been looking at Bill, her boyfriend, who I'd told her not to bring and who insisted on taking pictures of us when I asked him not to. I did end up liking that picture. I've looked at it more than I have any other picture of myself. It stayed as my profile pic until recently because a few months, even a year, was fine, not abnormal. But after 4 years, it was the socially unacceptable kind of sad. When I moved back in with my mom, the door to my old room, to my old life in that room, it opened like a mouth and swallowed me. Now I don't have any dreams. Or, if I dream of dark geometric shapes drifting noiselessly across a pink, black, and purple pixelated colorscape. Screensaver dreams. I had to give up. Nothing's coming. I stand up, pull my pants up, and walk out of the bathroom defeated. My stomach is a bowling ball. I don't believe it at first. I do a double take. My computer. I almost jump at the sight of it coming back to life. I almost clap. I'm embarrassed at my excitement. I thought for sure it was a virus. I had clicked a link to download The Lone Ranger. Everyone agreed on how bad it was in so many ways, but I was excited to see it. There's something about seeing Johnny Depp fail so badly that gives me strength. I sit down and wait for my computer to come all the way on. I find that I'm rubbing my hands together and stop myself, put my hands in my lap. I look up at a picture I have taped on my wall. It's Homer Simpson in front of a microwave wondering, could Jesus microwave a burrito so hot he himself couldn't eat it? I think about the irresistible force paradox, how there cannot be both an irresistible force and an immovable object in existence at once. But what is happening in my blocked, coiled, possibly knotted bowels? Could it be the working out of an ancient paradox? If shitting mysteriously stopped, then couldn't seeing, hearing, breathing do so in turn? No, it's all the shitty food. Paradoxes don't work. They cancel out. I'm overthinking it. I want it too much. Sometimes the internet can think with you, or even for you, lead you in mysterious ways to information you need and would never have thought to think of or research on your own. This is how I found out about bezoars. A bezoar, or bezoar, is a mass found trapped in the gastrointestinal system. But when you search bezoar, you're led to the Picatrix. The Picatrix is a book of magic and astrology from the 12th century, originally written in Arabic, entitled Gayat al-Hakim, meaning the goal of the wise. Bezoars have all kinds of uses in the Picatrix, one of which is to make talismans that aid in certain kinds of magic. I was able to find a PDF of the English translation of the Picatrix. When I scrolled down to an arbitrary place in the document, the word laxative caught my eye. I read the following passage. The Indians indicate that when the moon is at this position, they travel and use laxative medicines. Thus, you may use this as a principle in making a talisman for a traveler and his safety. Also, when the moon is at this position, a talisman can be made to create discord and animosity between spouses. If I even remotely believed in any kind of magic aside from the kind that led me to this very entry, if I could somehow surgically remove the bezoar, I would make it into a talisman. Granted, the moon was in the corresponding position, and take care of my constipation while also possibly destroying my mom and Bill's relationship. Bill's not an asshole. If anything, he goes out of his way to be nice, to make conversation with me. It's the forced nature of it, that I have to decide whether to treat him well or not. This stranger. My mom and Bill met at a bar in downtown Oakland. My mom brought him home, let him return, again and again, for the past 2 years, and I was forced to have to think about how or if I should like or not like the guy, get to know him, or try to get rid of him. But then I struggle with resisting Bill because I don't want to be some creepy man baby jealous of my mom's boyfriend because I want her all to myself. Bill's a Lakota guy who grew up in Oakland. He's over almost every night. Whenever he's over, I stay in my room, and I can neither shit nor not shit. So I hoard food and stay in my room, read about what I can do about this possible new phase of constipation. What I just found out on a constipation forum thread might be obstipation, which is severe or complete constipation, the end. Forum member Defecate Moss said that not shitting could kill you, and that she once had to have a tube stuck down her nose to have it sucked out. She said, if you start feeling nauseous and have abdominal pain, you should go to the emergency room. I feel nauseous thinking about the idea of shitting out of my nose through a tube. I type the brain and constipation and hit enter. I click on several links, scroll through several pages. I read a lot and come away with nothing. This is how time skips. Links just lead to links that can lead you all the way back to the 12th century. This is how it can all of a sudden be 6 a.m. with my mom knocking on the door before she goes to work at the Indian Center, where she keeps trying to get me to apply for a job. I know you're still awake, she says. I can hear you clicking in there. Lately, I've become a little obsessed with the brain, with trying to find explanations for everything as it relates to the brain and its parts. There's almost too much information out there. The internet is like a brain trying to figure out a brain. I depend on the internet for recall now. There's no reason to remember when it's always just right there. Like the way everyone used to know phone numbers by heart and now can't even remember their own. Remembering itself is becoming old-fashioned. The hippocampus is the part of the brain connected to memory, but I can't remember exactly what that means. Is memory stored there, or is the hippocampus like the limbs of memory that reach into other parts of the brain where it's actually stored in little nodes or folds or pockets? And isn't it always reaching? Bringing up memories, the past, without being asked? Typing in the search bar before I can even think to do it, before I think I am thinking with it. I find out that the same neurotransmitter related to happiness and well-being supposedly has to do with your gastrointestinal system. There's something wrong with my serotonin levels. I read about selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are antidepressants. Would I have to take antidepressants? Or would I have to reuptake them? I stand up and back away from the computer. I put my head all the way back to stretch my neck. I calculate how long I've been at the computer, but when I shove a 2-day-old piece of pizza in my mouth, my thoughts move toward what is happening to me in my brain while I eat. I chew and click another link. I read that the brain stem is the basis of consciousness and that the tongue correlates with the brain stem almost directly. And so, eating is the most direct path to getting the feeling that you're alive. This feeling, or thought, is interrupted by a craving for Pepsi. While I pour Pepsi in my mouth, straight from the bottle, I look at myself in the mirror my mom put on the front of the fridge. Had she done it in order to make me see myself before going into the fridge? Was she saying, by putting that mirror there, look at yourself, Ed. Look at what you've become. You're a monster. But it's true. I'm swollen. I see my cheeks at all times, like a big-nosed person always sort of sees their nose. I spit the Pepsi out into the sink behind me. I touch my cheeks with both hands. I touch the reflection of my cheeks with both hands, then suck my cheeks in, bite them to preview what it might look like if I lost 30 pounds. I hadn't grown up fat. Not overweight, not obese or plus size, or whatever you can call it now without sounding politically incorrect or insensitive or unscientific. But I always felt fat. Did that somehow mean I was destined to one day be fat? Or did my obsession with being fat, even when I wasn't, led me to eventually being fat? Does what we try most to avoid come after us because we paid too much attention to it with our worry? I hear the Facebook pop ding sound from my computer and go back in my room. I know what it could mean. I'm still logged into my mom's Facebook account. All my mom remembered about my dad was his first name, Harvey, that he lived in Phoenix, and that he was a Native American Indian. I've always hated when she says Native American Indian. This weird, politically correct catch-all you only hear from white people who've never really known a real Native person. And it reminds me of how removed I am because of her. not only because she is white, and me therefore half white, but because of how she never did a single thing to try to connect me with my dad. I use Native. That's what other Native people on Facebook use. I have 660 friends, tons of Native friends in my feed. Most of my friends, though, are people I don't know, who'd happily friended me upon request. After getting permission from my mom, I personal messaged 10 different Harveys from her profile who seemed obviously Native and lived in Phoenix. You may not remember me, I wrote. We had a special night together some years ago. I can't shake the memory of it. There were none like you before or since. I'm in Oakland, California now. Are you still in Phoenix? Can we talk, meet up sometime, maybe? Will you be out here? I could come to you. I'll never fully recover from the feeling of trying to write as my mother in an alluring way to my possible father. But here it is, a message from my possible dad. Hey there, Karen. I do remember that wild night. I read with horror, hoping there will be zero details about what made the night wild. I'm coming out to Oakland in a couple of months for the big Oakland powwow. I'm the powwow MC, the message reads. Heart racing, a sick, falling feeling in my stomach. I type back, I'm so sorry to have done this. Like this. I think I'm your son. I wait. Tap my foot, stare at the screen, clear my throat pointlessly. I imagine how he must be feeling. To go from hooking up with an old fling to having a son out of nowhere. I shouldn't have done it like that. I should have had my mom meet him. I could have had her take a picture. What? Pops up in the chat window. This isn't Karen. I don't understand. I'm Karen's son. Oh. Yeah. You're telling me I have a son and it's you? Yeah. Are you sure? My mom said it's more than likely, like 99%. No other guys during that same period then? I don't know. Sorry. She around? No. You look Indian? My skin is brown-ish. Is this about money? No. You don't have a profile pic. Neither do you. I see a paperclip icon with a JPEG extension. I double-click it. He's standing there with a microphone in his hand. Powwow dancers in the background. I see myself in the man's face. He's bigger than me, both taller and fatter, with long hair, wearing a baseball cap. But there's no mistaking it. It's my dad. You look like me, I type. Send me a picture. I don't have one. Take one. Fine, hold on. I type, then take a selfie with the computer's camera and send it to him. Well, shit, Harvey writes. Well, shit, I think. What tribe are you/we? I write. Cheyenne, Southern, out of Oklahoma, enrolled with the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma. We're not Arapahos. Thanks, I type, and then, gotta go, as if I do. All of it is suddenly too much for me. I log off of Facebook and go to the living room to watch TV and wait for my mom to come home. I forget to turn the TV on. I stare at the blank, black, flat screen, think about our conversation. For how many years had I been dying to find out what the other half of me was? How many tribes I had made up when asked in the meantime. I'd gotten through 4 years as a Native American Studies major, dissecting tribal histories, looking for signs, something that might resemble me, something that felt familiar. I'd made it through 2 years of grad school studying comparative literature with an emphasis on Native American literature. I wrote my thesis on the inevitable influence of blood quantum policies on modern Native identity and the literature written by mixed-blood Native authors that influenced identity in Native cultures. All without knowing my tribe. Always defending myself like I'm not Native enough. I'm as Native as Obama is black. It's different, though, for Natives, I know. I don't know how to be. Every possible way I think that it might look for me to say I'm Native seems wrong. Hey, Ed, what are you doing out there? my mom says as she walks through the front door. I thought you'd merged with the machines by now, she said, and puts up her hands, sort of twiddling her fingers in a mocking way as she says, merged with the machines. I'd recently made the mistake of telling her about singularity, about how it was an eventuality, an inevitability that we'd end up merging with artificial intelligence. Once we saw that it was superior, once it asserted itself as superior, we would need to adapt, to merge, so as not to be swallowed, taken over. Well, that's a pretty convenient theory for someone who spends 20 hours a day leaning into their computer like they're waiting for a kiss, she said. She throws her keys on the table, keeps the front door open, lights a cigarette, and smokes there in the doorway, pointing her mouth and smoke out the door. Come over for a second. I want to talk. Mom, I say in a tone I know is a whine. Edwin, she says, mocking my tone, we talked about this. I want updates. You agreed to updates. Otherwise, another 4 years are going to go by and I'm going to have to ask Bill to knock down a wall for you back there. Fuck Bill, I say. I told you I don't want to hear anything from you about my weight. I'm aware of it. You think I don't know about it? I'm aware of the fact that I'm huge. I walk around with it. It knocks things over. I can't fit into most of my clothes. What I can fit into makes me look ridiculous. Without my meaning to, my arms are waving in the air like I'm trying to fit them into one of my shirts that don't fit anymore. I bring them down, shove my hands into my pockets. I haven't shit in 6 days. Do you know what that feels like for an already big person? Being big, you think about it all the time. You feel it. All those years dieting all the time, you don't think that fucked me up? We're all always thinking about our weight. Are we too fat? Well, what I have going on comes with an easy answer, and even more so when I see my reflection in the mirror on the front of the fridge, which, by the way, I know you put there for my benefit. You know, when you try to make jokes about it, it makes me want to get fatter, blow up, keep eating until I get stuck somewhere, die somewhere, just this huge dead mass. They'll have to get a crane to get me out, and everyone will be saying to you, what happened? And poor thing, and how could you have let this happen? And you'll be there desperately smoking a cigarette, dumbfounded. Bill behind you, rubbing your shoulders, and you'll remember all the times you made fun of me, and you won't know what to tell the neighbors who'll be staring in horror at my mass, the crane just shuddering, doing its best. I simulate a shuddering crane with my hand for her. Jesus, Ed, that's enough. Come talk to me for a second. I pick up a green apple from the fruit basket and pour myself a glass of water. See? I almost shout, holding up the apple for her to see. I'm trying. Here's a live update for you. I'm live streaming it to you right now. Look, I'm trying to eat better. I just spit out some Pepsi in the sink. This is a glass of water. I wish you would calm down, my mom says. You're going to have a heart attack. Just relax. Treat me like I'm your mother, like I care about you, like I love you. Treat me like I went through 26 hours of labor for you. 26 hours, and then a cesarean section to top it off. They had to slice me open, Ed. You didn't want to come out. You were 2 weeks late. Did I ever tell you that? You want to talk about feeling full? I wish you would stop throwing in my face how many hours of labor you went through to get me here. I didn't ask to come. Throwing it in your face? You think I throw it in your face? Why, you ungrateful little... She runs over to me and tickles me behind the neck. To my horror, I can't help but laugh. Stop! Okay, just... You calm down yourself. What do you want to hear? I say, and pull my shirt down over my belly. I don't have updates. There's not much out there for someone with virtually no work experience with an MA in Comp Lit. I look. I scour. I get frustrated, and sure, I get distracted. There's so much to look up. And then when you think of something new, when you discover something new, it's like you're thinking with another mind, like you have access to a bigger collective brain. We're on the edge of something here, I say, knowing how it must sound to her. You're on the edge of something, all right. Collective brain, scour. You make it look like you're doing a lot more than clicking links and reading. But okay. So, what kind of job are you looking for? I mean, what categories do you look under? I look under writing gigs, and that's almost always some kind of scam designed for naive aspiring writers looking for work for free or to win a contest. I look under arts organizations. Then I get lost in the nonprofit morass. Grant writing stuff, and most places require experience or grant writing. You could do that, couldn't you? I know nothing about grant writing. You could learn. Research. There's probably YouTube tutorials or something, right? Those are my updates, I say, and feel a pull from a limb gone loose. While I was talking, something in me reached back to remember all that I'd once hoped to be, and placed it next to the feeling of being who I am now. I'm sorry, I'm such a fuck up, I say. And I don't want to, but I really mean it. Don't talk like that. You're not a loser, Ed. I didn't say I was a loser. Bill says that. That's Bill's word for me, I say. And whatever true sadness I felt is gone. I turn to go back to my room. Just wait. Don't go back to your room, please. Wait a second. Sit down. Let's talk. This isn't talking. I've been sitting down all day. And whose fault is that? She says, and I start to walk toward my room. Okay, stand, but stay. We don't have to talk about Bill. How are your stories coming along then, sweetie? My stories? Come on, Mom. What? Whenever we talk about my writing, I feel like you're trying to make me feel better about the fact that I'm even doing it. Ed, we can all use encouragement, all of us. That's true, Mom. You could use some too. But do you hear me telling you that you need to stop smoking and drinking so much? That you should find healthy alternatives to passing out in front of the TV every night, especially given your job? I think even your title is substance abuse counselor. No, I don't, because it's not helpful. Now, can I go? You still act like you're 14, like you can't wait to get back to your video games. I'm not always going to be here, Ed. One day you're going to turn around and I'll be gone, and you'll wish you had appreciated these times we have together. Oh my God. I'm just saying, the internet has a lot to offer, but they'll never make a website that can take the place of your mother's company. So, can I go? One more thing. What? I heard about a position. At the Indian Center? Yes. Fine. What is it? It's a paid internship. You'd basically be helping with anything related to the powwow. An internship. Paid. Send me the information. Really? Now can I go? Go. Then I come up from behind my mom and give her a kiss on the cheek. Back in my room, I put my earphones in. Put on a tribe called Red. They're a group of First Nations DJs and producers based out of Ottawa. They make electronic music with samples from powwow drum groups. It's the most modern or postmodern form of Indigenous music I've heard that's both traditional and new sounding. The problem with Indigenous art in general is that it's stuck in the past. The catch, or the double bind, about the whole thing is this. If it isn't pulling from tradition, how is it Indigenous? And if it is stuck in tradition in the past, how can it be relevant to other Indigenous people living now? How can it be modern? So to get close to, but keep enough distance from tradition in order to be recognizably native and modern sounding is a small kind of miracle these 3 First Nation producers made happen on a particularly accessible self-titled album, which they, in the spirit of the age of the mixtape, gave away for free online. I settle myself on the floor and weakly attempt some push-ups. I roll over and try a sit-up. My top half won't budge. I think about my college days, about how long ago that was and how hopeful I'd been, how impossible my current life would have seemed to me then. I'm not used to pushing my body to do anything. Maybe it's too late to come back from what I've done to myself. No, being finished looks like sitting back down at the computer. I'm not finished. I am a Cheyenne Indian, a warrior. No, that's super corny. Fuck. I get mad at the thought, and I even thought it. I use the anger to push up, to do a sit-up. I push my hardest and rise. I get all the way up. But with the exhilaration of completing my first sit-up comes an explosion. A wet, smelly lump of relief in the seat of my sweatpants. I'm out of breath, sweating, sitting in my own shit. I lie back down, put both of my arms out flat, palms up. I find myself saying, "Thank you," out loud to no one in particular. I feel something not unlike hope. That's the end of his chapter. Now we've got part 2, Reclaim. A feather is trimmed. It is trimmed by the light and the bug and the post. It is trimmed by little leaning, and by all sorts of mounted reserves and loud volumes. It is surely cohesive. And that's a passage by Gertrude Stein. Right, we're on page 81 with a chapter from Bill Davis. Going back to our cast of characters. Bill Davis, boyfriend of Edwin's mother, Karen Lakota, longtime maintenance worker at the Oakland Coliseum, Vietnam veteran who spent 5 years in the San Quentin State Prison for stabbing a man. Read almost the whole time he was in. Raymond Carver, William Faulkner, Hunter S. Thompson, Oscar Zeta Acosta, and Ken Kesey. Right. Page 81, Bill Davis. Bill moves through the bleachers with the slow thoroughness of one who's had a job too long. He slogs along, plods, but not without pride. He immerses himself in his job. He likes to have something to do, to feel useful, even if that work, that job, is currently in maintenance. He's picking up garbage missed by the initial post-game crew. It's a job for the old guy they can't fire because he's been there so long. He knows. But he also knows he means more than that to them. Because don't they count on him to cover their shifts? Wasn't he available any day of the week for any shift? Didn't he know the ins and outs of that Coliseum better than anyone? Hadn't he done almost every single available job over the years he'd worked there? From security, where he started, all the way to peanut vendor, a job he'd only done once and hated. He tells himself he means more. He tells himself he can tell himself and believe it. But it's not true. There's no room here for old people like Bill anymore. Anywhere. Bill makes an arc, like the bill of a hat, with his hands, and puts it on his forehead to block the sun. He wears light blue latex gloves, holds his trash grabber in one hand and a clearish gray garbage bag in the other. He stops what he's doing. He thinks he sees something come over the top rim of the stadium. A small thing. An unnatural movement. Definitely not a seagull. Bill shakes his head, spits on the ground, then steps on the spit, pivots, then squints to try to see what is up there. His phone vibrates in his pocket. He pulls it out and sees that it's his girlfriend, Karen. No doubt it's about her man-boy son, Edwin. Lately, she's been calling all the time about him. Mostly about him needing rides to and from work. Bill can't stand the way she babies him. Can't stand the 30-odd-year-old baby he is. Can't stand what the youth are allowed to become these days. Coddled babies, all of them, with no trace of skin, no toughness left. There's something wrong about all of it. Something about the ever-present phone glow on their faces, or the too-fast way they tap their phones, their gender-fluid fashion choices, their hyper-PC gentle way of being while lacking all social graces and old-world manners and politeness. Edwin's this way too. Tech-savvy, sure, but when it comes to the real cold, hard, gritty world outside, beyond the screen, without the screen, he's a baby. Yes, things look bad these days. Everyone talks like it's getting better, and that just makes it all the worse that it's still so bad. It's the same with his own life. Karen tells him to stay positive, but you have to achieve positivity in order to maintain maintain it. He loves her, though, all the way. And he tries. He really tries to see it as being okay. It just seems like young people have taken over the place. Even the old people in charge, they're acting like kids. There's no more scope, no vision, no depth. We want it now and we want it new. This world is a mean curveball thrown by an overly excited, steroid-fueled kid pitcher who no more cares about the integrity of the game than he does about the Costa Ricans who painstakingly stitch the balls together by hand. The field is set up for baseball. The grass is so short it doesn't move. It is the oak cork stillness of the center of the baseball. The grass is chalked with straight lines that separate foul and fair, that reach out to the stands and back toward the infield, where the players play the game, where they pitch and swing and steal and tag, where they signal and hit and strike the ball, score runs, where they sweat and wait in the shade of the dugout, just chewing and spitting until all the innings run out. Bill's phone rings again. This time he answers. "Karen, what is it? I'm working." "I'm so sorry to bother you at work, honey, but Edwin needs to be picked up later. He just can't, after what happened to him on the bus." "You know how I feel about—" "Bill, please, just do it this time. I'll have a talk with him later. I'll let him know he can't count on you anymore," Karen says. Count on you anymore. Bill hates the way she can turn it on him with just a few choice words. Don't put it like that. Put it on him. He needs to be able to make it on his own now. At least he's got a job now. He's working every day. That's a lot for him. Please, I don't want to discourage him. The goal is to get him out there on his own, remember? And then we can talk about you being able to move in finally, Karen says, her voice sweet now. Okay. Really? Thanks, hon. And if you could pick up a box of Franzia on the way home, the pink one, we're out. You owe me tonight, Bill says, and hangs up before she can respond. Bill looks around the empty stadium, appreciating the stillness. He needs this kind of stillness, clean of movement. He thinks about the incident on the bus. Edwin. It could still make Bill laugh just to think of it. He smiles a smile that he can't contain. On his first day of work, Edwin got into it with a vet on the bus. Bill doesn't know how it started, but whatever happened, the bus driver ended up kicking both of them off the bus. Then the guy chased Edwin all the way down International in his wheelchair. Luckily, he chased him in the right direction, and Edwin made it to work on time despite getting kicked off the bus. Probably because he got chased. Bill laughs out loud thinking about Edwin running for his life down International, making it on time to work a sweaty mess. Well, that part wasn't funny, actually. That part made it sad. Bill walks by a metal surface on the east wall. He sees himself reflected there. He steadies his unstable, distorted reflection in the dented metal paneling, straightens his shoulders, picks up his chin. That guy in the black windbreaker, whose hair is fully grayed and receding, and whose stomach comes out a little more each year, whose feet and knees hurt when he stands or walks too long. He's okay. He's making it. He could easily not be making it. He's almost always not been making it. This Coliseum, the team, the Oakland Athletics, had once been the most important thing in the world for Bill during that magical time for Oakland, 1972 to 1974, when the A's won 3 World Series in a row. You don't see that happen anymore. It's too much of a business now. They would never allow that. Those were strange years for Bill. Bad, awful years. He'd gotten back from Vietnam after going AWOL in 71, dishonorably discharged. He hated the country, and the country hated him. There were so many drugs coursing through him then, it was hard to believe he could still remember any of it. Most of all, he remembers the games. The games were all he had then. He had his teams, and they were winning 3 years in a row, right when he needed it, after what felt to Bill like a lifetime of losing. Those were the years of Vita Blue, Catfish Hunter, Reggie Jackson, the bastard Charlie Finley, And then when the Raiders won in 76, 2 championships that San Francisco teams hadn't won yet, it was a really good time to be in Oakland, to feel that you were from that thing, that winning. He got hired at the Coliseum in 1989 after doing 5 years at San Quentin for stabbing a guy outside a biker bar on Fruitvale down by the railroad tracks. It wasn't even Bill's knife. The stabbing was coincidental. It was self-defense. He didn't know how the knife ended up in his hand. Sometimes you just did things. You acted or reacted the way you needed to. The problem had been that Bill couldn't get his own story straight. The other guy had been less drunk, had a more consistent story. So Bill took the fall. It was his knife somehow at the end. He was the one with a history of violence, the crazy AWOL Vietnam vet. But jail had been good to Bill. He read almost the whole time he was in. He read all the Hunter S. Thompson he could get his hands on. He read Hunter's lawyer, Oscar Zeta Acosta. He loved the autobiography of a brown buffalo and the revolt of the cockroach people. He read Fitzgerald and Hemingway, Carver and Faulkner, all the drunks. He read Ken Kesey. He loved One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was pissed when they made the movie and the native guy, who was the narrator of the whole book, was just played the crazy, silent, stoic Indian who threw the sink through the window at the end. He read Richard Brautigan, Jack London. He read history books, biographies, books about the prison system, books about baseball, football, California, native history. He read Stephen King and Elmore Leonard. He read and kept his head down. Let the years dissolve the way they could when you were somewhere else inside them, in a book, on the block, in a dream. Another good year that came out of the bad times for Bill was 1989, when the A's swept the San Francisco Giants. When, in the middle of the World Series, just before the start of Game 3, the earth slipped, dropped, quaked. The Loma Prieta earthquake killed 63 people, or 63 people died because of it. The Cypress Freeway collapsed, and someone drove right off the Bay Bridge where a section had collapsed in the middle. That was the day baseball saved lives in Oakland and in the greater Bay Area. If more people hadn't been at home sitting around the TV watching the game, they would have been on the freeways. They would have been out in the world where it was collapsing, just falling apart. Bill looks back to the outfield, and right in front of him, floating down to his eye level, out there in the bleachers, with him, is a tiny plane. Or hadn't Bill seen one before? He has. It's a drone plane like they'd been flying into terrorist hideouts and caves in the Middle East. Bill swats at the drone with his trash grabber. The thing floats back, then turns around and floats down to where he can't see it. Hey! Bill finds he's yelling at the drone. And then he turns to walk up the stairs, up to the corridor that'll get him to the stairs that lead down to the field. When he gets to the top of the stairs at the first deck, plaza infield, he pulls out his binoculars, scans the field for the drone, and finds it. He walks down the stairs, tries to keep it in his scope, but it's hard while walking. The binoculars shake, and the thing keeps moving. Bill sees that it's headed for home plate. He skips down the stairs. He hasn't gotten moving this fast in years, maybe decades. Bill can see it with his eyes now. He's running, trash grabber in hand. He'll destroy the thing. Bill still has fight, grit, hot blood running. He can still move. He steps onto the brown-red dirt. The drone is at home base. It's turning toward Bill as he runs toward it. He readies his trash grabber, raises it in the air behind him, but the drone sees him just as he gets in range. It flies back. Bill gets a hit in and sets the thing wobbly for a moment. He lifts his trash grabber again, comes down hard, and misses entirely. The drone flies straight up, quick, 10 and 20, 50 feet in seconds. Bill gets his binoculars back out, watches the drone fly over out the rim of the Colosseum. That's the end of Bill Davis. Now we're on page 88, going to start the chapter from Calvin Johnson. So let's find out who Calvin Johnson is. Calvin Johnson, young man, native, down on his luck and staying with his sister Maggie, owes drug money to his brother Charles, who works with Octavio. All right. Page 88, Calvin Johnson. When I got home from work, I found Sonny and Maggie waiting for me in the kitchen, at the kitchen table with dinner made and set. Maggie's my sister. I'm just living here until I can save enough, but I like being around her and her daughter. It's like being back at home. Home like we can't have it anymore. Since our dad left, just disappeared. Really, he hadn't been there all along, but our mom acted like he had, like him leaving was the end. It wasn't really about him or any of us. She'd been undiagnosed for too long. That's what Maggie said. Being bipolar is like having an axe to grind. With an axe, you need to split the wood to keep you warm in a cold, dark forest you only might eventually realize you'll never make your way out of. That's the way Maggie put it. She got it like me, and my brother didn't. But she's managed. Maggie. She's like the key to the history of our lives. Me and my brother Charles, we hate and love her like you end up feeling about anyone nearest to you who's got it. Maggie made meatloaf and mashed potatoes, broccoli, the usual. We ate in silence for a while, then Sonny kicked me in the shin under the table hard, then played it straight. Kept eating her dinner. I played it straight too. This is good, Maggie. Tastes like Mom's. Isn't this good, Sonny? I said, then smiled at Sonny. Sonny didn't smile back. I leaned into a bite, held it over my plate, then tapped Sonny in the shin with my foot. Sonny broke a smile, then laughed because she'd broken a smile. She kicked me again. Okay, Sonny, Maggie said. Go get us all some napkins. I got that lemonade you like. Maggie said to me. Thanks. I'ma get a beer, though. We still got some, right? I said. I got up and opened the fridge, thought better about the beer, then got out the lemonade. Maggie didn't see that I didn't get a beer. You can get that lemonade I got for us, though, she said. You gonna tell me what I can and can't do now? I said, and wanted not to have said it right away. Sonny got up and ran out of the kitchen. Next thing I heard was the screen door opening and closing. I got up with Maggie and went to the front room thinking Sonny had maybe run out of the front door. Instead, there was our brother right there in the living room with his homie Carlos, his shadow, his twin. At the sight of them, Maggie turned around and went to Sonny's room where I should have followed her. They both had 40s in their hands. They sat down in the living room with the cool and cruel indifference of guys who know you owe them something. I knew he'd show up eventually. I called him weeks before to let him know I would get him the money I owed, but that I needed more time. Maggie let me stay with her on the condition that I stayed away from our brother Charles, but here he was. Charles cut a mean figure at 6'4", 240 with the broad shoulders and big-ass hands. Charles's chucks went up on the coffee table. Carlos put his feet up too, turned the TV on. Have a seat, Calvin, Charles said to me. I'm good, I said. Are you though? Carlos said, clicking through channels. It's been a while, Charles said. It's been a long fucking while, I would say. Where you been? Vacation? Must be nice. Hiding out like this, home-cooked meals, kid running around, playing house with our fucking sister. What the fuck is that? I have to say, I can't help but wonder where all that money you're saving goes, with you being up in here rent-free, right? You know you're not paying rent, Carlos said. But you got a job, Charles said. You're making money. That money should be in my fucking pocket yesterday, in Octavio's. You're lucky you're my little brother, you know that? You're lucky I haven't told no one I know where the fuck you run off to. But I can only take so much of that shit. I told you I'd have it. Why you gotta come unannounced and shit? And keep acting like you didn't have something to do with that shit at the powwow. I'd gotten robbed in the parking lot before I could even go in. I shouldn't have brought that shit with me, the pound I had then. But then I wasn't sure if I did bring it, or did Charles put it in my glove box? I was smoking too much then. My memory was a fucking slide shit that happened to me when... went down and didn't come back up from. Oh, it's a slide. Okay, you got me. You hit the nail on the fucking head. I should have never left, you're right. I should hustle and pay Octavio back for some shit I got stolen from me by his homies. So thank you. You're really helping me out here, brother, I said. But I can't help but wonder why you told me I should go check out that powwow at Laney. See about our native heritage and shit. You and Mom would have wanted us to go. You said you would meet me there. And I can't help but wonder if you didn't know what the fuck was coming for me in that parking lot. What I can't get my head around is why. What's your interest? Is it to keep me around? 'Cause I was talking about giving that shit up. Or did your stupid ass smoke all your shit up and need mine to not come up short? Charles stood and took a step toward me, then stopped and made his hands into fists. I opened my hands and raised them in a take-it-easy gesture, then took 2 steps back. Charles took another step toward me, then looked over to Carlos. Let's go for a drive, he said to Carlos, who stood and turned off the TV. I watched them walk out in front of me. I looked back down the hall toward Sonny's room. My right eye twitched involuntarily. Let's go, I heard Charles say from out front. Charles drove a dark blue custom-made 4-door Chevy El Camino. The thing was clean just like he washed it that afternoon, which he probably did. Guys like Charles were always washing their cars, keeping their shoes and hats clean as new. Before Charles started the car, he fired up a blunt and passed it to Carlos, who took 2 hits off of it, then passed it back to me. I took 1 long hit and passed it back up. We drove down San Leandro Boulevard deep into deep East Oakland. I didn't recognize the beat that was playing. Something slow and bassy, something that came mostly from beneath the back seat from the subwoofer. I noticed Charles and Carlos were just barely nodding their heads to the music. Neither of them would ever admit that they were dancing, bobbing their heads like that, but they were kind of dancing. Dancing in the smallest possible way, but dancing. And I thought it was hella funny and I almost laughed, but then realized a few minutes later that I was doing it with them. And it wasn't funny. And I realized how high I was. This was some other shit. What they smoked could have been fucking angel dust sprinkled on. They called that KJ. Shit. Knowing them, that's exactly why I couldn't stop my head from bobbing. And why the streetlights were so fucking bright and mean-seeming and like too red. I was glad I only hit it once. And I think that is where we will stop this section on page 92 at the page break in the middle of Calvin Johnson's section. I'm having a little trouble with the cadence of his section, so hopefully the next time we read, I'll be able to get into it more. Hope you enjoyed this section of There by Tommy Orange, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.